Hi, Bell Tower fam. It is time for Get Grant Ready with me. The Rebuild Florida grant is out. We are on the second round. Last year was the first time that they introduced the Rebuild Florida grant. What is Rebuild Florida? Rebuild Florida is a once in a lifetime grant opportunity for municipalities and organizations in Florida to get funding for mitigation services. In total, there were over $600 million earmarked for this Rebuild Florida program. And this money all stemmed from the Hurricane Irma that passed through Florida in 2017. Last year, they had their first round of three that they're going to have. They received 400 applications and only 20 applications were awarded. That is a 5% award rate for this program. So that shows you how competitive this grant really is. And those 20 organizations will share $150 million. One thing to note, with Bell Tower, you are in good hands because last year we did have a very successful year with this program. For this particular category, we were able to secure two of those grants, which is basically 10% of the allocation that was given out, and the two largest grants that they gave out. Shout out to North Miami Beach. But overall, for all of the Rebuild Florida categories, 60% of our clients received at least one grant from the Rebuild Florida program. So you've come to the right place to learn about this here program. Now, round two. This time they're giving out $170 million. This grant is due on September 17, 2020. And we can say, oh, we have some time for that. There's so many pressing issues that we have right now in grants that are coming out. However, you are required to have a period of public comment. So we don't want to wait too late to the point that we're not able to fulfill that very important piece of this program. You can submit up to 3 applications, and your project needs to be a minimum of $2 million to be able to qualify for this program. Now, I'm going to go over the top, I would say 5 things to look at to make sure that your program or your project will have the best chance to get the most points in this application. First, where are you located? This program has pretty much 2 eligibility categories. One is in HUD designated communities, and the other is in state designated communities. Those that are in the HUD, urban housing development, the HUD designated communities, they get more points in this program than those that are in the state. Don't fret though. Most of our Bell Tower family members are in those HUD designated communities. And if you're not, we can make sure that we pick up those points wherever they fall. Secondly, you want to make sure that you are meeting the HUD national objectives. What does that mean? First, this category is worth 30 points. If you are in an area where 50% or more of the beneficiaries of your project are low to moderate income, then you would gain points for serving a low to moderate income community. Also, if you cannot meet that and you're not in a low income community, then you would have to make sure that your project meets critical need. Critical need means that this mitigation project that you are proposing, if you all do not complete that project, it will place at danger life or the community health lines that are so important when there's a time of disaster. That takes us in to the second way that you can get this funding, or the second key element of this funding: protecting one of the community lifelines. This project has to have a tie to mitigation. Remember, this funding came out of the Irma disaster. So we're talking all about making sure that the next time a natural disaster or a man-made disaster comes, we are prepared. What are those community lifelines? Health and wellness, making sure that your law enforcement and your first responders can get where they need to go, making sure that your roads remain open, transportation, making sure that there's no risk of spills for hazardous materials, making sure that your energy and your communication lines are able to stay open, making sure that your wastewater systems are free from any damage so that if there's a disaster, those pipes may not break and you won't have wastewater in the community. Making sure that your stormwater elements, your seawalls, your drainage systems are clear and have enough capacity to be able to take in that rainwater. And you don't want this project to only affect a very small area. You want a project that has a larger impact, a regional or a large impact for this project. Remember, they want to fund transformative projects. These are projects that you can't go to other funding sources and get this funding. It will be more difficult for you to get that funding. So let's think about those wish list types of projects that you have. The next thing is match. Now, match is not a requirement for this application. However, you can get up to 10 points if you propose a match. So that's an area where if you are not quite hitting any of those other categories, you want to make sure that you put forth a match so that you can at least pick up all of the points in that category. And then finally, you want to make sure that you meet your public notice period. These public notice periods can be as long as 14 days. And there's two ways that you can do it. You can do it virtually or you can do an in-person public meeting. You also have to make sure that those meetings and those notices are in the newspaper and they're also translated in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. If those public notices are not translated, you would need to provide reasoning as to why you did not need to translate those public notices. And that reason can only be that based on census data, 5% or less of the residents in your area speak one of those languages. So those are some of the major ways that you can score points in this area and the most important things that you need to look at when you are determining a project for this. Let's go over them. 1, you benefit a low to moderate income community, or you can show that you have a critical need. 2, you want to make sure that you have a multi-jurisdictional or regional impact. 3, you want to make sure that this has a clear mitigation tie and that you are protecting one of the community lifelines that there are available. 4, you want to propose a match even though it's not required. And 5, make sure that you follow all of the guidelines necessary for that public involvement period. That will put us on a good track to hopefully get you some of these Rebuild Florida dollars.